on a show that is as popular as the PDL show with Bo Nair. And I was curious.
Yeah, I know, right?
Lily, did you have any interest in what does the PDL stand for?
You're not subscribing to Not Even the Show? Go watch Not Even the Show. You probably know Not Even the Show. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada, but he's a Canadian legend too. He oftentimes gets interviews with people no one thinks you can do. You know, he's pranked Rudy Giuliani successfully, actually a multitude of times. He's pranked Alex Jones successfully. He's the guy who called into Alex Jones using that voice simulator to sound like Tucker Carlson and was getting real weird with it. And Alex Jones, after the fact, pretended that he didn't get fooled by it, but it was so funny because basically he's like Tucker Carlson's like, "Oh, Tucker, why are you here? Why are you calling me? It's so good to hear from you, Tucker. I love you so much." And then Tucker Carlson out of nowhere is like, "Yeah, I just really want to butter you up and just grease you up like a wonderful little butterball and put you in the oven and just have myself a snack." You know, weird shit like that. And then it was pretty good that Alex Jones is like, "This doesn't sound the way Tucker Carlson normally speaks to me. There's no foreplay here. He's just going real quick with the whole greasing me up stuff." And then he's like, this is clearly the deep state or George Soros or, you know, someone else trying to prank me. He does a lot of great work. He does comedy in the form of what is not a very well-respected genre, I will say. Most people just think of prank calls as being, you know, weird racist sketches where you call people who don't, you know, might be first-generation immigrants to the country who don't fully speak English, and then you laugh about how they pronounce words differently. No. Prank calls can be a many, or just pranksters in general can be a many beautiful thing. If they're punching up, if they're using their powers for good, if they're exposing assholes and right-wingers for who they are. But he actually, in this regard, or this battle, started fighting with a magazine that came to town. If you didn't know, The Telegraph sent a couple of journalists to Vancouver, where I live, to go to the downtown east side of Vancouver. If you didn't know, the downtown east side of Vancouver, and Vancouver in general, is in the midst of a pretty bad opioid crisis, as is a lot of different countries in the United States. And right now, unfortunately, fentanyl is being introduced very rapidly into the drug supply of Britain. So Britain's starting to get worried, and they're like, well, this has been a disaster in the West. It seems to have destroyed Canada, America. It seems to be really devastating to, again, millions of people. A lot of people have lost lives. I lost my sister to the fentanyl crisis. It is a very real reality. I also live in the downtown east side of Vancouver, so I experience firsthand what it is to be surrounded by hardcore addiction and poverty all the time. And yes, upon first glance, I understand that anyone who walks through those areas, the first thing they will think is, holy shit. You know, I've heard Joe Rogan describe them as the Walking Dead. Elon Musk being like, these are zombies come to life. San Francisco's completely fallen. And then multiple ghouls and baddies, like JJ McCullough, by the way. If you have friends who are still being fooled by JJ McCullough, because he seems fun and says a boot and uses SFX from Super Nintendo, and so he must be pleasant and lovely. He's not. He's not. He's one of the people who is willing to spread lies and continue to perpetuate the problems that the drug crisis has basically caused because he thinks they're icky. And that's the same problem with these journalists from the Telegraph who came here to do poverty porn, is they think the whole thing's icky and they want to sensationalize it. So they actually took photos of people living on the streets, injecting needles into each other, because yes, that's what you will see. If you live here, you will see people on the street smoking crack. You will see crack pipes on the ground, broken glass. You will see people injecting needles into each other on the streets. It can be very jarring if you're not used to it. And if you've never volunteered for, you know, people who are overdosing and stuff like that, yes, it will look absolutely horrifying to you. Do not take fucking photos. What is wrong with you? That's disgusting. That is you literally profiting off of human misery. Those are not people in a good state at that moment in time. You're not helping them by continuing to perpetuate and vilify them and make them look as horrifying as possible, because people see it and they think of them as monsters. Like, oh my God, they're injecting needles into each other. Oh my God, this could be my kids. Oh my God, the problem is the addicts. The problem is the fentanyl. The problem is the drugs. The problem is the supply. And guess what? People who live here, they already know that. It's people from other parts of parts of the world, like people who come here from the US or people who come here from the UK, who want to do these sensationalist fucking porn poverty pieces that want to take photos of people who are, again, in the depths of addiction and in the depths of poverty, and then use that to vilify people in the depths of addiction and the depths of poverty. That's the whole point of posting and publishing those kind of pictures, and then doing this whole, like, it could happen to a city or town near you. Listen to Nancy Reagan. Don't do drugs, kids. Don't do them. Why are you doing drugs? Why does anyone do drugs? Don't do drugs. Don't do... Like, first off, the reason why people, I suppose, who are in cities that do have fentanyl crisis take these a little bit more seriously than the clowns who want to profit off human misery, because they know that it's not just hardcore heroin addicts who are dying. It's their sons and daughters who are dying right now. It's kids who want to pick up and try Molly, because apparently Molly is a lot more safe than people told them when they were kids. Or they want to try cocaine, and like, oh, well, the cocaine, it's just going to be, what, straight from Colombia, right? It's not as if it's adulterated. All that shit now has fentanyl in it. Everything. The entire drug supply is tainted with fentanyl. Why? Capitalism, the war on drugs. It's a very long and difficult thing to explain in a simple sentence. But the problem, again, is exacerbated by the fact that we are in a state right now where there's a prohibition on drugs. Contrary to what the Telegraph or any of these right-wing publications will tell you, there is not legal drugs in Canada. We do not have a legality of hardcore drugs. There was a pilot program that recently got introduced into British Columbia to decriminalize certain drugs in an attempt to allow resources of the police to go after larger scale people who are distributors, people who want to sell volumes and volumes of perhaps tainted drugs, to try that out. But they're not going to get a chance to do that because they got so fucking scared, maybe like 3 months into the program, because of all of the foreign press. All of a sudden, there's all these YouTubers, and go check out ThoughtSlime's channel. He does a great job breaking down one of these assholes. But all of these YouTubers start doing videos where they travel to Vancouver and they film themselves on the street being like, oh my god, look how bad it is because they legalized drugs. Oh, there's a person smoking crack on the street. Oh, look at that person using a needle on the street. Disgusting. Look at these disgusting pores being gross. And then all of a sudden people watch that and they're like, oh, I don't want that to happen to my city. Why did this happen? Oh, it's because they legalized drugs. Oh, heavens. Oh, my. Well, we must fight this. Maybe the war on drugs is a good thing. We have to fight this because the more legal they get, the worse it becomes. No. If you actually look at the data, if you actually look at the statistics, and I'm going to pull it up, by the way. We have to use facts over feelings here because apparently people's feelings are getting in the way of a good story. It's not that at all. Okay, the amount of people who have been dying from drugs and hardcore drug use, it was going down when harm techniques started being introduced in Vancouver. When we started opening up safe injection sites, and yes, there was so much pushback from conservatives for doing it, but we did it anyway because so many people were dying and people on the streets didn't want to keep witnessing it, so they said, fuck it. We're going to try doing this before we get the fucking, you know, the government saying it's okay. So they were doing rogue DIY safe injection centers. Those expanded into safe injection tents. Those expanded eventually into approved harm reduction safe injection centers where nurses could go and supervise people. That made the amount of people dying from hardcore drugs go down. Line went down. Then it went like that. Do you know why? Because fentanyl gets introduced. First, it's the opioid crisis. That is the first huge hit where you see the line go like this. After the opioid crisis, it's the fentanyl crisis, which makes the line go like that. Because, yeah, these are much more powerful, strong drugs that can be produced very cheaply in China, incredibly cheaply, and then brought over in volumes here into Vancouver. And if you bring in a small little bag of fentanyl that's 80 times more powerful than heroin, well, then, of course, drug dealers are going to be like, oh, this just makes sense economically. This is capitalism, all right? Instead of bringing in tons and tons of, heroin from Afghanistan, where it can be very expensive, or tons and tons of cocaine from Colombia, where it can be very expensive, we're going to bring in just a small little teeny bag of fentanyl from China, although it's more like massive cargo ships, let's be honest, and then we can just use a little teeny bit of that, sprinkle it into some other garbage, and then it'll feel like they're doing other drugs. It'll feel like they're doing cocaine, you know? A little bit of caffeine in there, maybe some like Adderall, some other stuff, and then a little fentanyl. Sure, it's cocaine, whatever. You don't know any better. Here you go. Hey, a little bit of fentanyl, maybe some filler. Yeah, sure, yeah, it's heroin. Pure Afghani heroin. Enjoy. Yeah, oh, that's some strong stuff, all right. And then what do you know? Tons of people who became addicts, first from the opioid crisis, by the way. This was a pharmaceutical program well before it was an illegal drug program. The pharmaceutical industry fucking pushing all that, like, oh, what Did you break your finger? Ooh, did you have an owie? Well, why don't you take this? It's wonderful. It's time release. You can just take this one pill. You'll feel no pain. You can get your life back. Doesn't that sound great? Purdue Pharma is here to help you. That's right. Doctors, go recommend us. The Oxycontin. Nothing bad can happen. And it's like, all right, so my arm's no longer broken. Cool. That's good. Yep. I kind of keep wanting to take in that Oxycontin, though, because I feel better. It makes me feel healthy, and I like that feeling. So I'd like to keep taking it, please. Oh, we can't do that. No, if you didn't know, it's actually some strong-ass stuff. We didn't really tell you that before you were taking it, but yeah. So you might kind of keep wanting it, because again, it's a lot of powerful shit in there. Yeah. Oh, just different kinds too. And in this one, we got a whole cocktail going on. You know, and it's not just oxycodone. There's other stuff in there. Don't worry about it. Stop taking it, and then you know, aspirin or something else. What's that? You can't stop. Oh, because your body is telling you gotta keep taking it to stay healthy. Well, as a doctor, I can't just keep prescribing that for you, but you might find someone on the corner who can. You might find someone on the street who can. Maybe they can help you out and keep making sure you keep feeling healthy by taking that drug, and keep taking that drug, and don't stop taking that drug, and hopefully there's not even more powerful drugs to get introduced into the street that are very, very cheap and pervasive, and suddenly cause an entire epidemic to just explode. That's basically it. Lurgo Ifina, thank you for the prime. I appreciate it. Love you, Lance. You're doing God's work every day. The Lord's work. It's good to know. So anyways, Prank Stallone called them out. And they got real mad about being called out. They did not like that. They were quite upset about this, and got very upset. But Sarah Green, one of the journalists who was doing the poverty porn, this piece has been a long time coming. It was a privilege to spend 4 days reporting with another clown. Blah, blah, blah. 3 of approximately 5,000 drug users who live in Vancouver's downtown east side, a 10-block corridor. This is fucking sick. Honestly, you should all be ashamed of yourselves. You should all quit your jobs because you're not journalists. Again, you are people who are trying to profit off of human misery and make a crisis worse. Your reporting will result in more people dying. You are going to get people killed to sell garbage, bile, scum. Honestly, this is just so disgusting that this happened. So Prank did say, stay the fuck away from our city. And then that obviously got Paul Nuki going, you're hiding behind a pseudonym and a social media account, you misogynistic little twerp. So he reveals his information here. Glad you have come out from your hole. You can explain here with all your friends reading why you think it's okay to aggressively attack a young female reporter you have never met before as a witch. Perhaps the BC cops, unable to take fentanyl off the streets, could then pop around to check on any female acquaintances you have. And no, I don't want to go call in your shilly junk. Basically accusing him of being a woman-beating misogynist because he was disgusted at what was taking place here. And again, the attempt to profit off of human despair that was done in this article. And wild way for the person to be reporting on this too is another kind of thing to throw in the middle of this. Glad you've come out of your hole. You can explain it all. I wanted to do a quick little fact check. So we got a lot of feelings. Feelings are riding high. I can feel it. And unfortunately, we have to let the facts speak for themselves. We cannot let the facts get in the way of feelings when it comes to this story. This is a great little rundown. Let me break some of this BS down. It's not hard to guess why a UK conservative media outlet, The Telegraph, would send 2 clowns to Vancouver to report on the toxic drug crisis. A thread. Fentanyl has only just begun to show up in the illegal drug supply in the UK, and the new Labour government will need a plan to respond ASAP. It's always disheartening when conservative voices punch down on the most vulnerable, but it's even worse when they parachute in and get almost everything wrong. So it is a perfect combination right here, by the way. And UK, you are going to experience mass death and suffering on a scale to which will horrify many of you if you do not listen. If you allow the right wing and the Telegraph and the tabloids to lead the narrative on this like they've been trying to do on trans issues to the detriment of the healthcare of trans people, the same thing will happen and you will have a fentanyl crisis on hands, the likes of which, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And there's nothing worse than exacerbating it. The Telegraph doing this kind of a story are accelerationists. They're not only lying about what is causing this and what is making it worse, not only are they doing that, but they are also doing it while vilifying the very people who are suffering under the crisis. That's one of the most fucked up parts about this. The people who are the ones suffering, you are going after them and profiting off their misery. This piece is giving, quote, unethical and criminally charged YouTuber vibes. A clickbait video from Vancouver was made last year. The IYKYK. A thread with all the errors really would be novel, so here are just a few of the worst. Number 1. Vancouver is not the fentanyl capital of the world. They compared the city's rate of death with entire countries. This obviously wouldn't pass an elementary school statistics exercise. The rate of drug deaths per 100,000 people in Vancouver is currently 68.4, and that's the lowest it's been since 2020. Here are some other North American cities for a more accurate comparison. In Baltimore, it's 174.1 to 100K, Philadelphia 88.5, Washington DC 71.9, San Fran 72.9, and Milwaukee 72.6. Now, none of this is good. This is like, hey, other places are all having massive fentanyl crises, just like Vancouver is, and these are other places that have worse ones than Vancouver does in terms of overdose deaths. Do they have more people using fentanyl? That's not what this is showing. This is showing the amount of people who are dying. The reason why some of the people have been lowering the amount of deaths since 2020 in Vancouver is, again, the government is providing and distributing naloxone kits, overdose prevention kits, and they are given out for free. And again, if you're listening to this and it's the first time you've ever heard this, you can get in Canada a naloxone kit by going into any Shoppers Drug Mart, any London Drugs, learn how to use them, get them. They're free. It's 100% free. I'm not allowed because of the TOS to explain to you how to use them here on stream, but there are many YouTube videos that can tell you. Watch the ones that are made by nurses. Watch the ones that are made by organizations that are reputable. Learn how to use those kits. They save lives. They can save lives. I've used them on people who are overseeing before. They work, and you literally will save a person's life if you know how to use these kits, if you have people in your life that you know use illicit drugs or hard drugs that could be tainted. Decriminalization did not, quote, allow an opioid crisis to take hold. BC's public health officer declared this crisis a public health emergency in 2016. Decriminalization was introduced in January 2023, 7 years later. Nor did it make the crisis worse. When the pilot launched in January 2023, 7.4 British Columbians were dying each day. In April 2024, when the province announced the rollback, that figure was 6.1 deaths per day. Locals say overly liberal drug laws have sparked a catastrophe. Which locals? Why, the BC Conservative MLA that you interviewed, of course, in a throwback to the horrific collab she did last year with those YouTubers. She's once again participating in a salacious and exploitative report about the drug crisis. Yes, the Conservatives of the province will lie to conservative outlets to fearmonger. That's what's going to happen. It's an actual thing that happened where they say, yes, or look towards the pundits who live here too. JJ McCullough. Fucking atrocious ass scumbag, helped provide a lot of information in this debunked video that was put out, sponsored by the guy who owns Lululemon. It sucks. He's a right-winger and he's willing to sponsor people who exacerbate this crisis. But all of them are completely fine with, again, poor people and addicts dying. Because all that they do is promote propaganda that continues and exacerbates poor and addicts dying. So it is very, very gross to see, but no surprise. Eleanor, why do you keep doing this? You don't win the local hearts and minds by crapping all over vulnerable British Columbians in the foreign press. As you know, the rate of drug poisoning deaths is down since the start of the decrim pilot. It did not cause increased harms. Addiction rates and drug poisoning deaths have been decreasing amongst BC youth. Another local listed is Fiona Wilson, the Deputy Chief Constable of the Vancouver Police Department. Except the looks they attributed to her are lifted from her April testimony to the Federal Standing Committee on Health, when she also said people are dying because of fentanyl. Diversion is something we're watching, but it's not what's killing people. I'm not a journalist, but isn't it kind of a no-no to pretend you gathered the quotes used in a story during an interview when you didn't? Shouldn't you properly attribute the source and the date of the quotes used? For the exploitative photos. This is the worst part of the piece. Taking photos of people who are living in poverty, struggling with mental illness, or dealing with addiction, and using them for political gain is not okay. Even if you get consent in the moment when they're high, photos like these make it more difficult to get jobs, housing, and to reestablish important relationships like getting their kids back in the future. It's cynical and gross. Not to mention, I can't prove this, but a lot of people and YouTubers have done this, where obviously people who are addicts and who are living on the street will sign away their consent for a price. If you walk up to someone, it's like, hey, can I take a picture of you shooting a needle into that girl's arm? No, man, get the fuck away. What if I give you 20 bucks? Yeah, just 20 bucks, sign this piece of paper. I'll give you 20 bucks, right? Here it is. Look, sign this piece of paper. Here you go. Sign it. Okay, good. There you go. Money. Good job. All right, nice. There's more, lots more, but I'm angry and exhausted, so I'll wrap it up here. Maybe tomorrow I'll post a list of all the British Columbians and Vancouverites who shared this dumpster fire hit piece when they should have known better. E.g., if you're a city councillor, veteran, journalist, or well-known pollster, what the fuck? So, yeah, it's, It's sad, it's gross, and it's unfortunate because it's not going to help the problem. The problem is going to continue to get worse, and the very things that exacerbate this problem, such as the war on drugs, for example, and the prevention of allowing for clean supply. Guess what? We had a person who had the bravery to set up a clean supply store in Vancouver. What they did is they publicly showed all the drugs they were selling and what was inside them, and they also got street testing of drugs that were on the street and what was inside them and put them side by side. Their cocaine, the cocaine that was off the street, the list had like 35 ingredients, and none of it was cocaine, by the way. It was like, fentanyl, blah, 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 some morphine, Adderall, like all this other shit, not to mention like just like paint thinner chemical style stuff. And then theirs, which was cocaine contains cocaine. So that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to sell people clean heroin, clean cocaine, clean MDMA, and that was the entire idea. Obviously, the place got shut down because drugs aren't legal here. You can't do that. The cops shut it down so fucking fast, and that person was literally just trying to save lives. They weren't a drug. They were an ex-drug user themselves. They had gotten clean, and they said that they know what it's like to live on the street and be addicted to drugs. They just don't want to keep seeing people die from overdoses because people don't know what the fuck is in their shit. So hey, here's a pilot program. It gets shut down. So there is no legal vending machines for drugs here. There are legalized drugs. They decriminalized small amounts of possession for, I believe, up to 1 gram of 4 specific drugs. But then, because of articles like this, people flipped out, and the mayor of Vancouver, just in conjunction with David Evey, passed once again restrictions on where you could actually have the legal amount of 1 gram of drugs, into the point where you can't even carry them in the city legally anymore. They have to be within X amount of a park, X amount of a school, X amount of this, X amount of that, which again is just going to lead to mass death. It's like any single time there's even a slight movement towards practical, rational suggestions or solutions that aren't going to result in multiple people dying, boom. Yeah, there's a fear-mongering article that comes out that plays into people's very easily deep-seated fears about this crisis, and then they'll see something like that come out, and yeah, they'll make more draconian laws even more intense in the middle of it all. Isn't there a Coca Leaf Cafe there? Yeah, there is. There's okay, so those places, by the way, so people think that mushrooms are legal, that kratom is legal, what is it, DMT and LSD are legal. They're technically not. There's just like, so before weed was legal in Canada, it suddenly became legal to use it for medicinal reasons. And so a bunch of stores popped up and they started saying, hey, well, weed is already legal for medicinal reasons. Maybe we're going to see how much we can try to get it legal in this perspective. And so you saw a bunch of weed stores pop up where it was that kind of same thing in the US, right? You walk into it, you're like, yeah, I have insomnia. And they're like, oh, okay, well, here's your membership card. Here's your pot. Kind of gray area. Well, that's happening right now with mushrooms. So there's a lot of mushroom stores in Vancouver. That's true. You can walk into the mushroom stores, you can buy the mushrooms and walk right out and have yourself a mushroom adventure, as little or as much as you want. Microdoses all the way up to like full on blah, blah, blah. And there are a lot of them that have pushed that further that sell mushrooms and LSD, or they might sell mushrooms and peyote or something like that. Just to be clear, none of this is legal. All right, if you are a tourist coming to Vancouver, you can walk to these stores. They will take your debit card, and they look like regular Apple stores just for mushrooms, okay? That is all true, but just keep in mind this is not because Canada legalized all those drugs.
Cultivate a slightly racist audience?
I don't think so, because
if you don't know who this is, by the way, this is the N-word Karen. She's basically someone who was trying to get famous on TikTok and was not really doing too great. And then, you know, she got caught dropping an N-bomb in one of her TikToks. And, you know, rather than do what most people would do when they got called out for it, especially she got called out by the black community a lot on, you know, rightfully so on Twitter. She instead doubled down and pretended the whole thing was part of some big scheme and was like, haha, black people, you have fallen into my trap. And then started, like, immediately went from that to doing the right-wing fucking, you know, circuit. Now she's on The Blaze. Now she's on Tim Pool's show. Now she's on this show. Now she's blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so wait, this person is famous in the right-wing media for what? That's it? Just literally saying the N-word. That's her only accomplishment in life, is saying the N-word, but that's enough to have a pipeline into some, like, wow. Okay. All right, I mean, yeah, the bar is just sinking ever faster, right? What was it? Higher eye check, really no discernible talent, but at least you could say that she used her hatred, bigotry, and just like, you know, the vilification of LGBTQ plus people on social media to grow a social media account. She at least was doing something. Like, yes, she's the biggest of the highest order, but like she was at least working, you know, doing some kind of something, not just fucking, that's it. Your literal only accomplishment in life was that you said the N-word.
It's like the audience who, you know, has my back and the people who understand it, they like, you know, they know how it was meant. It's not like I said the N-word with the hard R. It was, you know, with the A, the soft A, like just a kind of a word that a lot of people use in their general vernacular. So no, I mean, I'm not worried about that. If that happens, that sucks, but that's not my intention.
So you did lose your job over the controversy. That led to pretty standard conservative media push. Unfortunately, there was some pushback from the conservatives because I guess you are like meant to be a Tradwife, which is
and I can't wait to see where this goes. But just to people asking, that someone said that I don't think that she's done that many shows. Yeah, she has. Like, she was literally just on Tim Pool with Alex Stein.
Them saying something like the word N-word, and it looks funny because it's a white girl delivering it.
Well, there's all these like bubbles of things that you can't talk about or things you can't say, and I think it's everybody's responsibility to go around and pop those. We don't need that.
Whoa, are you the first person to think of that? It's like, hey, by the way, there's like taboos, but I don't like obey them. I bust those taboos. I'm a taboo buster. I just run around popping them just like here and left, you know? What, I'm not supposed to do things, say things? I'll do them. I'll say them. Yeah.
Those bubbles, that's like an infringement of free speech, ultimately.
Totally.
I think it's all deeply, deeply paradoxical. You know, when it comes to the whole like N-word argument stuff, it's like, yeah, I come from a generation, you know, we don't say that because we're just trying to keep decorum, I guess. There are some people.
Sorry, what decorum? Did you think like, oh, well, white people are just basically holding off because they know that they could just usher in the race wars if they used it. So yeah, we're keeping the peace. All right, we're just, but decorum has been maintained.
They're like, you should be able to say a word. It's like, yeah. I agree, like descriptive use of words, totally fine, blah, blah, blah. But I try to maintain decorum, and so just we don't need to create confrontation. However, that being said, I challenge any liberal to go to a skate park anywhere. 15-year-old kids dropping N-bombs every other word. And these are white kids, Latino kids, black kids, all to each other. It does not mean what the older generation think it means to these kids. And I'm not saying...
What does it mean, Tim?
That's a good thing or bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality. Go to a skate park and listen to these kids talk to each other, because it just means dude.
By making it a word, by making.
This is just such a weird, like, you know, with anything Tim Pool says, I don't know how much of it is based in real stories or whatever, but I mean, he's kind of painting a picture that I was hanging out at the skate park with some 15-year-olds, you know, how do you do, fellow kids? And I heard a whole bunch of them using the N-word, you know, and just different groups too, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of black people there, and they were all using it to each other, and it was neat when I saw that. It didn't mean the thing I thought it meant, which is like a racial slur. To them, it's kind of like almost as if it's just like, hey, my guy, you know, that's neat, right? So maybe it means something else that we thought about it all along. No, Tim, you're describing reclamation. That's what you're describing. It's like, oh, there was a group of black people hanging out and they were all calling each other the N-word, and it didn't sound as if it was mean. They weren't like trying to really, you know, denigrate one another or vilify one another. They were just like friends. Dare I say, homies? Yeah, at that moment in time. And you're like, wow, Tim.
Making it a word you can't say. The younger generation, of course, like memed it and turned it into a cool thing to say.
I don't think that's what it is to them. I think maybe to like millennials on the internet, they were like, we're going to do it. You know, that's the joke. But if you go to skate park, the 12-year-old kid is just saying, my dude. That's literally what he's saying. It's like, it doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah, it's almost like we've taken the racial aspect. Like, it's not even a racist word anymore, at least.
We? Who are you talking about? Are you trying to reclaim the N-word for white people? it's like we've taken away, you know, the kind of like the hateful connotations of that word, and we've reclaimed it to be able to use just to reference our friendship and solidarity and strength with one another. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Why would we let it go?
The way I said it was not racist. It was just like you said, dude.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. You're not black. That's like, it's pretty easy. This is like when people are like, well, I think there has to be intentional racism behind it, ultimately. Like, if someone's racist, what they say when they say racial slurs, is that truly racist? If they're in their heart not racist, right? Because if they don't believe that they're actually doing it to try and denigrate someone else, that it doesn't come from a place of hatred. It comes from a place of love. What about that? So is that okay? Could it be used from a loving place between a white person and a black person?
Traditional wife, but you don't have a husband, and they found out that you have a child out of wedlock, and a lot of the people in general, a lot of them said you were like a psyop, and basically there's a lot of people from the outside who are kind of saying, hey, you know, she would have been better off if she just didn't do that and she just kept her job that had the benefits and everything like that.
That it wasn't some fucking Machiavellian scheme that she was playing the whole time. Ah, black people, you fell into my trap. I was trying to become famous all along.
And because she's not really kind of getting that conservative media push that she was expecting, it's not really sticking. She's not really finding popularity in any kind of avenue whatsoever. Nobody's really, you know, picking up what she's putting down. But I would say to those haters, yeah, if things aren't going well for Lily, then how exactly did she find herself on the PDL show being interviewed by the one and only Bo Nair?
Exactly. Like
I love that she still hasn't got it yet. She's exactly. Hell yeah.
This isn't a W. I don't know what is. We're already winning, baby.
Exactly.
No,
Here we are. I mean, how can you be losing when you're literally on a show that is as popular as the PDL show with Bo Nair?
Oh, no way. Okay, she has to have gotten it now. I'm worried because there's over 1 minute and 20 seconds left. If she doesn't figure it out this immediate, she doesn't know that Pete Clinton's not his real name.
And I was curious.
Yeah, I know, right?
Lily, do you have any interest in what does the PDL stand for?
What does the PDL stand for? Enlighten me.
It stands for the Pathetic Desperate Loser Show.
That's awful.
I hate to see you go, but have a good time.
We do not care.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You
Didn't know he tried to play her out, but it didn't work. He still didn't take the hint. She's still like,
good day, sir.
So, question for you: is the grift completely dead, or do you still have some sort of dreams of keeping the grift alive and cashing in on the fact that you said a racial slur on social media?
Well, what exactly like is a grift? Because I've been getting that a lot, and I'm
sure you have, yeah.
Like, what is that? Yeah, that seems to be the common label. That and that I'm a Jew, apparently.
Oh yeah, no, I hadn't heard that one. I'm not a racist guy, so that's probably coming mostly from your racist guy audience that you've cultivated.
Oh my god, that was so good. Oh, All right, so once again, if you don't know, that was the wonderful comedic stylings of Not Even a Show. Fantastic. Well done, Frank Stallone. I gotta hear the
secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content. Go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincell, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.